The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, he'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
The High Peak series is sponsored by Gainsborough Cycles, 01427 617 752. For all your cycling needs, this is your one-stop shop located at 20 Ropery Road, Gainsborough, or online at gainsboroughcycles.com. There's a link in the description. Gainsborough Cycles, ask for Trevor Halstead. Welcome back to High Peak again, everybody. It's Friday, and that means it's the end of the week, and we're going to finish this run here in High Peak with a beauty of a parish. This one's got two settlements within it, one that's got a very watery theme and a very mill type theme, because there were mills on the river, which we're about to see. The other one has got a connection to a famous writer, one of the Bronte sisters. This is Brough and Shatton. Brough and Shatton, fought at a corner farm. Wrapping up the week in High Peak, we have Brough and Shatton, named for the two hamlets which form it, Brough-on-Noe and Shatton. The two places are about 2 kilometres apart, both on the River Noe and both due south of Hope and Bamford. There's a friendly rivalry between the two hamlets, and they contest numerous sports competitions throughout the year. They're very different places though, with some interesting bits of history. Brough gets its name thanks to the Romans. Here, the continental invaders had a fort called Navio, and there's a few remains of that today. Batham Gate was a Roman road that connected Navio with the spa town of Buxton to the west, and via a now lost route to Templeborough on the River Don near Rotherham. Batham Gate literally means the road to the Bath town, i.e. Buxton. Brough later had a number of mills that used the Noe, including a lace thread doubling mill, a cotton mill, and a corn mill. As for Shatton, it means farmstead in a nook of land between streams. It too was on the Roman road. The area surrounding Shatton, though, is linked with the writings of Charlotte Bronte. In Jane Eyre, the famous writer talks of the young woman who married the master of Thornfield Hall. It's said that her fictitious character was based on a real Jane Eyre who at one time lived at Shatton Hall and married John Thornhill from the village of Thornhill we saw earlier this week. That's speculative, but could it be true? Let's have a look at them both and investigate. We start with the River Noe, which both villages sit on. This is the first time we've seen this river, despite the fact we mentioned it briefly yesterday. It's a tributary of the River Derwent and flows approximately 12 miles from its source through Edale to Hope. Its source is at Edale Head, from where it runs down the clough alongside Jacob's Ladder footpath and through the Vale of Edale. Roughly, its course follows the same route as the Manchester to Sheffield railway line. Like many rivers in Derbyshire, the Noe was used historically to power watermills. As we know, originally these were mainly corn mills, but due to the Industrial Revolution, some were rebuilt for other uses. Brough had a mill or two, as we'll see shortly. Now, do you remember the Bradwell episode in the Derbyshire Dales? When we were there, we mentioned Brough Bridge and how its closure affected the Chippy at Bradwell. Well, now it's reopened, and here it is. This was built in 1824. It's made of ashlar and has 2 spans with wide-span segmental arches. There are also 2 semicircular cutwaters. The whole thing is a Grade 2 listed building. Right, let's get to the mills. Brough Corn Mill has medieval origins, and the Strelley family owned it from the late 12th century. It had to be rebuilt in 1924 after a fire tore through the building. It's believed it started in a gas-fueled kiln after its lead pipes melted. As a mill, it performed grinding, threshing and drying. It had 5 sets of grindstones powered by 2 water wheels, and electricity was generated here until 1950. The mill is now used as a country store, but one of the water wheels still remains. There were a number of mills at Brough that used the Noe. They included a lace thread doubling mill, 3 cotton mills, and the corn mill, which was the last to use water power. In theory, it could have continued, had it not been for Ladybower Reservoir. In 1954, the flow of the River Noe was reduced by an upstream diversion scheme designed to provide additional inflows for Ladybower. The result was a seriously limited water flow to the mill. Even though electric motors were added to supplement the water power by driving the Provender equipment, by 1955 the east wheel, its associated millstones and the electric dynamo were demolished, and the watercourse to the wheel was blocked up. As well as the mills, Brough had a white lead works, a single-storey building which has a clock in the motif of the Festival of Britain. Its figures spell out, although not in the right order, a navio, Brough's Roman fort. Yes, speaking of which, the Romans were very, very, very active in this part of Derbyshire. Now, I don't know for certain, but I think this is the field in which the Romans would have had their main sort of base here. A fort which gave Brough its name, because Brough, of course, means fort. Here's a little bit about it. It was called Navio. The small Roman fort known as Navio was located at Brough. Navio literally means on the river, and the likelihood is that it was put here to guard a crossing point. Originally constructed from wood in the 1st century AD, it was later partly rebuilt in stone, and some of that is still visible. Stones look at first glance to be an old water trough, but they are in fact the entrance to an underground strong room that was at the heart of the fortification. Also clearly discernible are the outer boundaries of the fort, laid out in a perfect square, and parts of these reveal more stonework. Back in Roman times, from Navio the roads travelled northwest to the larger fort of Melandra near Glossop and south 11 miles to Buxton. Parts of that southern road, called Batham Gate, are still with us. For example, part of it is the main street that runs through Bradwell. The route north is now no more than a bridleway over the ridge of Wyn Hill, which dominates the skyline in that direction. Buxton became a very important regional centre and spa town to the Romans and wealthy Romano-Britons. Its name then was Aqua Arnamente. Interestingly, Arnamente was a Celtic goddess, but the Romans were real magpies and would readily adopt local deities if they thought there was something to be gained. It was probably a shrewd move politically. One of the inscribed stones left by the soldiers at Navio is dedicated to Arnamente. That makes sense given Brough's watery location. Confluences were always places of veneration to the Celts, and one can imagine offerings being thrown into the waters, right where the magnificent old corn mill stands today. So, what were the Roman soldiers doing here? Well, the surrounding parts of the Peak District would have been incredibly important thanks to vast deposits of lead. It was transported along the roads and over this crossing. Almost certainly a small settlement of local Celts would have grown up outside the walls of the fortress to serve the soldiers' needs and to cater for the travellers using the crossing. The Romans would have termed this settlement a vicus, and it quite possibly formed the foundations of the tiny village of Brough. After all, Brough means fortification in Anglo-Saxon. So, with the Romans mining for lead and later people using the River Noe for milling, Brough has been a pretty industrious little place. It still is. These days, Brough is noted for its intrepid brewery, and that's literally its name. This is Vincent Works, where Intrepid Brewery is based. It was founded by a man called Ben McIntyre, who began brewing his own beer thanks to a Christmas present he got from his wife. It was a home brew kit. One thing led to another, and before long, Intrepid was off the ground. Now the brewery is struggling to keep up with demand. Well, let me tell you folks, the lack of a footpath in places here in Brough makes it really, really hard to film, and so I actually cannot wait to get out of here. Brilliant history all round, but to be honest with you, not the easiest place to walk around, gotta tell you. Hopefully in Shatton it's going to be a little bit better. Let's drive there now. I tell you what, I bet even Shatton is one of those places that people that live in Derbyshire may not even know because it's so well out of the way. It is worth coming to though for a little stroll around, and one reason for that is this gorgeous little ford which you can find at the western end of the village. This is a dead end. Obviously the ford crosses the road here, but when you go over the ford along this road here, it's a dead end. You can't go much further than here. So there's probably like a couple of houses up there, but nothing much more than that, quite frankly. We're going to go the other way though. We're going to go up here and through the main village towards those houses and beyond, and this will take us through what I call the main body of Shatton. There's a footpath then which will run around the back of the houses, and it comes out somewhere up there, and that means we can cross the ford again to finish. So let's have a look at Shatton then. There's not much to it, but I'm sure there's something of interest. So this is Shatton, also on the River Noe, but further to the east. It's about 2 kilometres from Brough, and it's far more residential than its parochial neighbour. The name Shatton means farmstead in a nook of land between streams, and that's the perfect description. The name has appeared in several forms, including Skatoon in 1086, Scatone in 1230, Shatone in 1294, and Nether Shatton in 1508. Townfield Lane in Shatton is an ancient route which leads to Brough. It's so deeply hollowed away by the passage of travellers that a new footpath has been adopted on top of the bank. At the start of the lane there's a picturesque paved ford which has been captured on many a resplendent photograph. This ancient route out of Shatton was part of a salter's lane or saltway which ran up Hurst Clough beyond Bamford. It's also thought to have been on the Roman road from Navio which led along the long causeway to Sheffield, a continuation of Batham Gate. Today, Shatton is a secluded and exclusive hamlet with many select houses. The best approach to Shatton is over Mytham Bridge, which crosses the River Noe just upstream of the confluence with the Derwent and downstream of the quaintly named Lumble Pool. The area surrounding Shatton is linked with the writings of Charlotte Bronte. In Jane Eyre, Bronte talks of the young woman who married the master of Thornfield Hall. In reality, knowing the Bronte sisters' penchant for basing characters on real people, this is believed to be John Thornhill, who lived in the village of the same name. Jane Eyre, therefore, may well have been a real lady. And we're back to where we started, just up from the ford. But we're not quite done with Shatton just yet, because you may have noticed that where we were walking along the footpath there's some cracking hills up there. And this road that my car is currently parked on is going to take us into those hills, where there's going to be an absolutely awesome view at the top. Okay, so I've driven up the hill, and let me tell you, it's a tough climb. It was first gear all the way. That tells you how steep it was. But I'll tell you something, now that I'm here at the top of the hill, I've got a beautiful view. Let me turn the camera around and you'll see. There you go. How about that? That is the Hope Valley, people. You can see in this shot, Loose Hill, Win Hill, Ladybower Reservoir, Bamford, Hope, Shatton, Aston, Thornhill, they're all there. It's just a case of picking them out on the horizon. Absolutely magnificent. I hope you enjoy this view from the hilltop, people. Isn't this absolutely gorgeous? Sometimes you don't need much to be happy. Just a great view and good weather is enough to put a smile on your face some days. With that, we're done with Brough and Shatton and this first run in High Peak. Join me again soon though for more. I'll be doing a weekend run in the near future where I'll be talking a lot more about the Derwent reservoirs, but also the world famous Snake Pass. See you soon. Now just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.